The unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Well, yesterday we had a lovely funeral for our old monk, Reverend Master Jisho, at which many of us were here. It was lovely. And today, I'm going to talk about something completely different. Grumpy. Sometimes we're grumpy. And we can be annoyed by something that somebody's done, or that they said, or we might have been asked to do something we think is too hard or unreasonable. Or we might just be grumpy, just finding fault with everything. We know what that's like. Sometimes we're in pain or we're not feeling well. There are 1,000 reasons why we might be grumpy. And sometimes it seems like no reason at all, we're just grumpy, you know. Sometimes it's just a habit of mind. We're just habitually grumpy, habitual responses of grumpiness with people. And that's kind of dismal. You know, everyone's grumpy. It's not a happy state of mind. Sometimes we don't even notice that we're being grumpy. You know, we just go along with our crabby thoughts, and then we might think, oh, I'm really grumpy this morning. If you can see that, it really helps us. Oh, I'm just grumpy, you know. I can just let it go, maybe. We can see it in more perspective rather than just going along with our grumpy little thoughts. Oh, that was so awful. Oh, they did that silly thing. Oh, that was so dreadful. You know. Seeing our grumpy mind, as Reverend Master Jiyu used to say, that which sees our mistake is not itself mistaken, it's seeing more clearly. That which sees our grumpiness is not itself grumpy. So there is a part of us that doesn't quite buy into that grumpiness. Grumpiness is not our true nature. We're not a grumpy person. We just have grumpiness come up sometimes. Well, we can think being grumpy isn't really a problem. You know, it's not like white-hot rage or deep hatred. You know, it's just grumpiness. But it's a suffering. And it can cause suffering for other people as well. We might not see that. We might not see the effect of our grumpiness on another person. Or we might ignore it or be making excuses. Well, I don't feel well. I'm just a little grumpy. I'm tired. Yeah. But actually, it's nice not to be grumpy because it does affect other people. Like there's the classic response, you know, good morning, what's good about it? You know, it's not very welcome, we don't like that. Or somebody, you know, we ask somebody something and they're going, meh, you know, it's depressing. So let's try not to be too grumpy. We can all be grumpy sometimes. All of us know what it's like. And we can be forgiven an occasional grump. But if we're habitually crabby, people don't want to deal with us. They don't want to ask us to do things. They don't want to, you know, just leave us alone actually quite often. They won't say the thing that we need to hear. They won't tell us something or they won't ask us something. And we can feel a little bit isolated. They don't want to spend time with us, and that's sad. We don't want to be a grumpy, miserable, isolated person. We can be grumpy in our speech, you know, grumpy in our thoughts, and we may think, well, having a grumpy thought doesn't hurt anybody, but actually it does affect other people. It affects us. Even if we're being grumpy and not saying anything, just, I'm not going to say anything. People feel it. They feel that crabby attitude. And they may stay out of our way, you know. And we wouldn't want that to happen too often. We don't really want to be isolated because we're crabby. Because grumpiness does isolate us. It makes us feel separate from other people. It's me annoyed about other people. Hell is other people, as Jean-Paul Sartre would say. It's a classic thing. Hell is other people. Or situations we don't like, feeling grumpy about things we don't want. You know, I don't like it. It's a selfish view. Being grumpy is because of our selfish view that we want it differently. We don't like it this way, we want something else. Wanting things to go our way, wanting other people to be the way we want them to be, well, good luck with that. If we're annoyed, even if we're annoyed about something that affects just a few of us, say we're in an apartment building and we're irritated by what the landlord's doing, well, we can be grumpy together, you know. But it's still, there's an isolating quality to it. It's us being grumpy, and that poor landlord over there, we don't know what his story is. Maybe he's not paying attention. We don't rightly know. But if we've been grumpy in unison with a few other people, there's still a kind of division. You might sometimes have a group grump. I like that. Group grump, complaining about something along with other people who feel the same way as we do, you know. Think of politics, you know. There's a lot of this in our world at present. Us, you know, thinking this way and other people thinking that way. We can complain about them. They don't think like us. They don't have the right view, you know. But it just widens our grumpy group into a bigger grumpy group, rather than just me or a few people. The whole range of grumpy people grumping about other probably grumpy people who think differently. It's divisive, you know. It's divisive because us against them. And we can see how contagious this can be. Look at the internet and all the views that people have. Listening to our own views, looking at the news that we like, not the other news that we don't like. You know, reinforcing our own thoughts about something. Somebody I know said, I like to look at CBS News or NPR, and I also like to look at Fox News and to see what my mind does. I thought that was deeply wise, to see what my mind does, regardless of the content, to watch our mind, because that's the important thing, watching what our mind does. I was deeply impressed by that, you know, looking what our mind does. Because this divisiveness of view can be contagious and even dangerous. We see people getting killed because of their views and so forth. Racism, hate groups and all that, especially within the internet. And complaining along with others might feel satisfying in the short term. Oh, I feel so much better, I got that off my chest. But actually, it doesn't nourish us, it doesn't sustain us, because it's based on negativity. It's based on hatred and dislike, or a very narrow view of what I think things should be like. Anger and ill will, it doesn't make us happy. It's not nourishing. So what can we do about our grumpy attitudes? Well, I think the best antidote is gratitude. We can't be grumpy and grateful at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. Think about trying to be grumpy and grateful at the same time. You just can't do it. And gratitude is much stronger than grumpiness because it's positive. It brings benefits and joy. And grumpiness is sterile, actually. It doesn't make us happy. But gratitude is a very beneficial and positive thing. So, how can we cultivate this? When we're irritated with somebody, can we be grateful for something? Can we be grateful just for having them in our life, you know? We hear so often about family members who have an argument, and then one of them gets in an accident and has a bad accident or gets sick or almost dies or does die, and the other person just is mortified, just feels terrible about that argument. You know, they'd be only too happy to have the person back in their life, throwing their clothes all over the floor or not emptying the dishwasher or whatever it might be. They'd be only too happy to have that person back with all their faults. It puts things in perspective, you know. Just the practice of gratitude rather than grumpiness. It's really, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen that somebody, you have an argument with someone and you don't see them again, or they're really ill, or some you just don't know. So we can cultivate gratitude. When we're annoyed about something somebody's doing or something they've said, we can reflect on the qualities that we appreciate. Everybody has qualities that we can appreciate. There's nobody who's completely bad, utterly awful. You can't just have the parts of a person that you like and get rid of all the parts you don't like an apple, Cut out the bits you don't like and throw them away and keep the bits that you like. You can't do it. You get the whole apple. You get the whole person, like it or not, and usually the parts that we like will long outweigh the parts that we don't like. And in case it's not up to us anyway, there they are. We've got our apple, we're not going to throw them away. So can we accept the parts that we like and reflect on those when we're somewhat soured by the bits that we don't like? We can't make other people be the way we'd like them to be, no matter who they are, no matter who we are, no matter how hard we may try. It just causes suffering to them and to us. We can't just be at ease with that, you know. Constantly trying to make people better, you know. It doesn't work, you can't. Just got to accept them the way they are. No one's going to change because of what we do, maybe a little bit, but fundamentally, pretty much you have to accept people as they are. And the more we can do that, the better. If you have children, yes, we try to bring them up, you know, in a good way, but they're going to be the way they are fundamentally, just have their own personality and so forth. Cultivating gratitude, not taking people for granted, not taking anything for granted, appreciating what people do that's helpful, you know, having compassion for their difficulties, because everybody has difficulties and we may not know what they are. Feeling sympathy, putting ourselves in their shoes just for a moment. What's it like to be this person? What's it like to deal with that body, you know, or with those difficulties, or with that family, or those things that they have to contend with? We don't know what it's like to be another person. There may be somebody who we really find it hard to get along with. Then if we find out they've just had a really difficult life or have a very difficult situation, we can have more sympathy. Oh, okay, I'll try and cut them a little slack. And we can do this on a wider level as well. And instead of complaining about all the things that are wrong in our lives, to look at the things that are, a blessing. Counting our blessings is a very old thing, but it's actually wise. You know. It's okay. We just had our 4th of July ceremony. And although it's not the 4th yet, we did it. We express gratitude for our country and all that we have. Well, it's not perfect by any means, as we know, but it's a lot better than in many parts of the world. And gratitude is not denial. We're not saying everything's perfect, just how it should be, we love it. We always have something to be grateful for. We can always find something to be grateful for. And considering, we have comparative freedom of speech in this country. Even though there's bigotry and hatred based on race or religion or whatever, we can say something about the government that they may not like, but we're not going to get locked up or killed for it, you know, with comparative freedom of speech. Our country's wealthy, although the wealth is not fairly divided. There's lots of very poor people. But there are people trying to help, many people trying to help. And it's not like in many parts of the world where people are starving and having to leave their homes because there's nothing left. You know, it's very, you know. We're mostly peaceful, not being bombed or killed on the whole, although, you know, we have mass shootings and we have hatred and all that stuff. Many people live in fear or danger, fear and danger because of their race or their religion. But it's not like we have civil war or we're being invaded by another country. You know, we're not being in danger of our very lives if every moment. It's different. Because in so many parts of the world it's not like this. They have horrible things happen. People living and dying in terrible circumstances we can't even imagine. And to be grateful that we have what we do have is not to harden our hearts and say, well, we're all right, we don't care. We can have sympathy while being grateful for what we have. I think it actually is helpful to be grateful for what we have, never to take it for granted, and to offer merit for others who don't have all that, to help where we can, you know. It's really a great blessing to be able to do that. We can offer merit, we can offer help where we can, because actually we're really fortunate. A side note about politics. Buddhism is not about politics. The Buddha never got into politics, though he well could have, you know. He tried to bring peace between people. There was a time when there was a lot of political strife, wars going on between little kingdoms. He tried to bring peace. He never favored his own clan above the others. He tried to bring peace. And when his clan kept going to war and people getting killed, he would grieve, but he didn't try to interfere. Or twice he tried to prevent a battle, but he wasn't trying to say, you guys win and you guys lose. He tried to prevent it twice. The third time, he said, I can't stop this. I just have to let them do it. He couldn't make people be peaceful, you know. But he wasn't trying to wield political power of any kind. So we don't get into politics. We might all have different political views, and no matter what our views may be, we are all welcome. The Dharma is for human beings, all of us, beyond our little views and opinions about anything, political or otherwise. Because politics is a fertile field for bitterness and hatred and divisiveness, and we don't want to do that. The Dharma is beyond that. We want to have it for everybody. Even, mere grumpiness, well, it's a little grumpiness we can handle, but hatred and divisiveness on political views, we don't want to have any of that. So we try to stay out of politics. So everybody is welcome, no matter what their stripes. And if you can see our views for what they are, that they're just views, we don't know everything, no matter how much we might think we are right. And maybe we can hold them a little bit more lightly, and not think they're ultimate truth. And refrain from adding to the divisions and divisiveness and hatred in our country. It would be nice to not be adding to all the divided views and, bitterness and hatred and all that. We all know what we're talking about. So, back to grumpiness and gratitude. How do we relinquish grumpiness and cultivate gratitude? As I said, one thing we can do is change our attitudes. I've been reading about indigenous communities in this country, and very often they're based on gratitude, a whole cultivation of gratitude, ceremonies of gratitude and so forth. Gratitude for what we're given, for what the land provides. And in ancient times, people would live on the land or fish and, farm, or maybe just gather plants and so forth, and, hunt, but take only what they needed and leave the rest to grow or for other people, not to take more than they needed, and to be grateful, to leave a little gift actually, to express their gratitude for what they'd received, because they'd never take it for granted. Sometimes they'd be starving in the wintertime, but they'd still be grateful for what they had, and they never, as I said, took it for granted. And in other parts of the world too, not only in this country, but in many parts of the world, people who live in situations we consider much poorer than us practice gratitude for what they have, because they never take it for granted. And we're so fortunate that we have more stuff, we have more food, we have more comfort, and we don't always think about where our food and our material goods come from. Who made them, who grew them, the earth that provided them. And as a society, we've lost that sense of gratitude, not just here, but in Europe, in countries that are richer, we lose that sense of gratitude. So in a way, we're more impoverished than people who have very little and are grateful for what they have. I think, as one of our ancestors said, if you're content with what you have, you're rich. If you're discontented, though you may have lots of stuff, you're actually poor, because it's what we make of it, it's our attitude of mind, of being grateful for what we have. But here we tend to have not so much a sense of gratitude, but more a sense of entitlement. I'm entitled to all these things, and if I don't get them, I get grumpy. And that's sad, even angry if I don't get what I want. So as Buddhists, as we know, we try to cultivate gratitude. Gratitude for all that we have, gratitude for the people in our lives, gratitude for the good things that we have that come our way, not to take anything for granted, and even gratitude for the difficult things that happen. If we're ill, sometimes we learn something, we change our view, we change the way we do things, our views change. Oh, I've been just working on making money and suddenly I can't do it anymore. We may have a completely different view. We might see more deeply, see what actually is important rather than just amassing stuff, So you never know, we can always find something to be grateful for. And of course, the thing to be most grateful for is the great blessing of the Dharma that shows us how to let go of suffering, to let go of our selfishness, to practice kindness and compassion and gratitude. Grumpiness is really based on selfishness. I want something else. When I'm grumpy, if I can recognize that grumpy little self that wants things to be another way, then I can more easily let it go and accept things as they are, rather than thinking, why is it like this? Just to see, I'm just being grumpy. This is okay. It's not a problem, Just let it go. It's okay. I have endless opportunities for this. Endless opportunities, for which I'm grateful, actually. Doesn't always feel grateful at the time, but there we go. Even in small ways, a little grumpy thought, or a little crabby word, and not very generous response. Can we let them go? Just recognize them, restrain that not very generous response, and say something kind, even if we have to say, let me get back to you about that, rather than, no, Grumpiness is isolating and miserable. Gratitude, on the other hand, is based on interdependence. Everything I have is because of other beings, other things, humans, animals, plants, even rocks and stones. Everything I have, this very earth we're on, is essential to our life, Animate, seemingly inanimate, all of it, part of Buddha nature, part of the fabric of our life. Everything to be grateful for, We could not possibly take a breath without the oxygen that helps us, We're completely dependent on other beings, other things for our very life. There's no room for isolation or selfishness in this. It makes no sense at all. We're all completely connected to each other, to our land, to the animals, to the plants, to everything. So we can be grateful for the little things in our lives and for the big things. We have this beautiful planet. Maybe take care of it. We don't have to feel grateful all the time, but we can practice gratitude. We can come back to that. It's all right. I don't have to feel grumpy about this thing. I can just take a breath. Or how fortunate we are that the sun rises every day to warm us. We wouldn't last 5 minutes if it didn't. To practice gratitude is not an artificial thing. It's a thing we can just cultivate, just come back to. And it helps us, it helps those around us, it helps our country, and it helps our world. And that's our talk for the day. Thank you. Nice to see you all. Thank you for being here.